The following program is made possible by friends and partners of the Quick Study Television Ministry. Thank you for your support.
The first 5 heroes of the book of Exodus are women. Today we explore the coming out of the darkness of Egypt. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Rod Hemmer.
I'm Janice.
And I'm Corey.
And this is the Quick Study Media Program, bringing you the study of God's Word. And as we go from Genesis to Revelation in 1 year, today we find ourselves in the book called The Exit, or Exodus. We study chapter 1 and 2, where we will focus on amazing heroes of faith, not the least of which are the midwives, of course, and Moses' sister and Moses' mother. What an amazing time it is. We also have Ryan here. Space Friday, it's Cosmic Mysteries. Ryan?
Well, NASA will have you believe that life in the universe may be common rather than rare. Today we look beyond the claims to see what's actually been found.
All right, Ryan's coming up a little bit later on with Cosmic Mysteries. It's going to be a good one. Corey, we have Bible archaeology as well.
We do. I'm excited about this one. We are going to, there's a lot of discussion on just who these pharaohs in the Exodus story are. So we're going to be exploring some claims and some chronology issues, and we're going to see if we can pinpoint some of them.
Excellent. Bible challenge.
Here it is. How many daughters did the priest of Midian have? Did he have 3 daughters, 7 daughters, or 9 daughters?
Excellent. Very good. So you can see we have a lot to do here on the next, well, really 24 minutes. I hope you'll stay with us as we explore Exodus chapter 1 and 2. Who are the pharaohs, cosmic mysteries, what's going on in the universe? Stay there as we continue.
We have begun to study the book of Exodus. Now, I can't allow us to begin to study the book of Exodus and not take a look at some of the different options we have for identifying the Pharaoh of the Exodus and also of Joseph's time in the oppression.
The second king of Dynasty 12 was Sesostris I, and some people see him as the Pharaoh of Joseph's day. He did have an unusually powerful vizier named Mentuhotep. A large water-bringing canal was dug during their time, and a governor left a tomb inscription boasting, "In the years of famine I had tilled all the fields and preserved the food which it produced." These preventative measures are strikingly similar to those in Genesis 41. Soon after, there is an aggressive pharaoh who fits the Bible's description of a king oppressing Israel. A slave list from his time names many Semitic names, confirming Israel could have been in the land. 2 later pharaohs bear an interesting resemblance to Moses' adoptive family. Pharaoh Amenemhet II had no sons, we can confirm, just daughters. Yet, he did have a male co-regent for some time who mysteriously disappears, and when the king dies, his daughter Sebeknefru takes the throne. Could Sebeknefru be the daughter engaged in fertility rituals to the Nile who fatefully found baby Moses? Could Moses be an explanation for this mysterious co-regent disappearing to Midian after a crime against Egypt? Finally, we come to the Pharaoh of the Exodus himself. In this theory, that's Nefertep I. His mummy has never been found, fitting the biblical drowning in the Red Sea. And though he had a son, that son doesn't become Pharaoh, a possible death of the firstborn casualty. The economic and political disaster resulting from the plagues, loss of slaves, and death of the army can perhaps be seen in the invasion of Egypt by the Hyksos people. The ancient claim that they took over Egypt without a fight has long been puzzling, unless, of course, the nation had just lost everything.
Perhaps it sounds strange that in a time of deep distress and persecution, a Levite and his wife would start a family. After all, the new Pharaoh, who has risen in Egypt, has commandeered any future the family of Israel has. But this kind of thinking is man's thinking. God's thinking is different. God always uses creative methods to come against and destroy the works of the devil and evil. God does not win his battles by backing down, but by moving forward in the face of danger and in the breath of evil. Such was the case of Moses.
Exodus 2, verses 1 through 10. And a man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Exodus chapter 2, verses 1 through 10.
You know, when most people think of heroes of the faith, obviously their mind goes to Hebrews chapter 11, where we are surrounded with such a great cloud of witnesses in history, heroes of the faith. That's true. But when I first read Exodus chapter 2 and Exodus 1, I learned that the first 5 heroes of Exodus are women. This is amazing. We have, of course, the 2 midwives who would not kill the Hebrew babies. We have, of course, Moses' mother and Moses' sister, who took care of Moses, and then Moses' sister sets up the mother to be the nursing one for the baby. And then we have Pharaoh's daughter, who, despite the commands of Pharaoh, she shuns those commands and draws the baby from the water and protects him as his own. 5 heroes, 5 women heroes in the first 2 chapters of Exodus. Today we're going to focus on what that means and how God himself uses not fear, but faith to investigate and destroy in the very evil time when Pharaoh was killing babies. In this time when God would preserve one person, one baby, Pharaoh's daughter would name him, and he would turn the tide and rescue his people. This is an amazing commentary on the procedures of the divine mind. Now, let's begin by looking at the 2nd chapter of Exodus, verses 1 and 2. It says, "And a man of the house of Levi went and took his wife, a daughter of Levi. And so the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, that's an interesting phrase there, she hid him for 3 months. It's a phrase that means that's blessed by God. Now this is amazing because you see, God confronts evil not by backing down, but by creating new and faithful forces of soldiers. Here's what's happening. Most of us in today's mentality would say, well, there's no point in having another child or building a family in times of such great persecution. We must all hide ourselves and we must all back off. But it was through the birth of Moses and the call of Moses in this little Levitical family that God, in the shadow of Pharaoh's hatred of the Jews and jealousy and terror, that God would actually raise up a baby right under his nose, right in his own household, that would eventually defeat the house of Pharaoh. That is a commentary on the way God works. Verses 3 and 4 say, but when she could no longer hide him, that is his mother, she took an ark and bulrushes for him, and she built it. She daubed on it some asphalt and pitch and put the child in this boat. And she laid it in the reeds by the riverbank. And his sister stood far off to know what would be done to him. Now, this is interesting because the second connection and power connection is there is no successful change in the spiritual atmosphere of our lives without extreme faith. How much faith would it take for that mother to actually put her baby in that little boat that she had constructed? But God was doing something. Now let's go quickly to verse 5. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river. See, God knew this. He set it up. And because of the faith of Jochebed, he set the whole thing up in Miriam. And her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw this little ark that was made by Moses' mother among the reeds, she sent her maiden to get it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So Pharaoh's daughter had compassion on him, and she said, this is one of the Hebrew children. Now she had a choice. Do I kill him, give him to my father, or do I take him? And then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And so the maiden went and called the child's mother. And then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages, getting paid for this. And so the woman took the child and nursed him. That was Moses' mother. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and she became her son. So she called his name Moses, because I drew him out of the water. Couple of things here. The first power connection is this: extreme faith and trust in God as provider protector cripples Satan's plans and takes back resources that he has stolen. I mean, there is so much divine irony here. The maiden who draws Moses from the water is probably Miriam. She seems to be one of the maidens who was helping Pharaoh's daughter. She's the one who suggests, shall I go get a nurse to nurse the child at that critical decision moment? So what does Miriam do? Go gets the mother of Moses. And God reunites. You see, the mother gave away the child, and God reunites the child. What a story. But not only does God reunite the child with his family, but God uses this child to train him in the house of Pharaoh and overturns the kingdom of Pharaoh to set free the people of Israel. So you see, beloved, how important it is, mothers and fathers in your family, to release your children to the Lord and pray and have faith and ask God to invade their lives. Release them to the Lord. If you are struggling today with a child who is somehow out of the will of God, you need to pray and ask God for forgiveness for mistakes you've made, and then you need to release the child to the Lord and devote yourself to prayer and ask God to help you know how to pray. And I will believe with you in Jesus' name. The children will come home. They will come back to Jesus, and he will destroy the works of Satan.
There are many people today that are still under the impression that Ramses II was definitely the pharaoh of the Exodus, and we can prove it, and we have chronological proof from the Egyptian records. Well, I gotta tell you that I just don't buy that, and there are some very viable reasons why a lot of historians and scholars don't buy it. Right now, we're going to explore how this theory came about and why maybe it's not true.
Many people have claimed that there's no evidence of Israel living in Egypt. If true, this should be quite troubling to Bible believers. Even if direct evidence wasn't found, there should still exist circumstantial evidence. A prosperous time under Joseph, followed by an economic collapse post-Exodus. However, to look for circumstantial evidence, you must be looking in the right place. Traditional scholarship has named Ramses II as the pharaoh of the Exodus. Why? Because the Bible says the Israelites built up Pithom and Ramses as supply cities for Pharaoh. Ramses, it said, was named after the pharaoh. But what if a later scribe copying Exodus decided to update the place name? There is another reason for dating Moses to the reign of Ramses II. The chronology of Mentho, a 3rd century BC Egyptian priest. He lived after the conquest of Alexander the Great, in a much different Egypt than the Egypt of Exodus. Mentho divided Egypt's ancient pharaohs into ruling family groups called dynasties. One of the issues is that no full copy of his work survives, only quotations found in other historians' works. We learn from one of these historians that many of the kings in Mentho's list actually ruled at the same time, just in different areas. But traditional scholarship has them ruling one after another. That means our chronology could be off by hundreds of years. Add that to the fact that we have the mummy of Ramses II, meaning he's not at the bottom of the Red Sea, and that his son Merneptah boasted about defeating Israel already established in the Promised Land, tells me that Ramses II was not the pharaoh of the Exodus. We've been looking in the wrong time.
Join Janice, Corey, and Rod Hembry live every Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. for the Bible Investigators program. We take your questions from Facebook, from Twitter, and also from the chat room about God, the Bible, and the church. Study for truth with God's Word, Sunday nights live at Bible Investigators. That's BibleDiscoveryTV.com, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Bible Investigators. Join us. Where did we all come from? Why are we here? Is life as we know it a simple accident? Is life as we know it a complex accident? Is our existence nothing more than a bucket of biochemicals thrashed about and voila, life comes out? Or is life the relationships we build in it? Love, joy, excitement, and much more. Quick Study Television is pleased to present Unlocking the Mysteries of Life, a careful video study of the mysteries of life focused on the other side of the evolutionary theory. Highly esteemed and powerful think tanks of scientists and philosophers in our modern world take you through an intellectual journey prepared with brilliant cinematography and strange but beautiful creatures. When you support Quick Study TV this month with a generous gift in any amount, we'll send you this stunning documentary called Unlocking the Mysteries of Life. We are deeply encouraged by your offerings and support. Will you consider us today? Please write to P.O. Box 150, Murraysville, Pennsylvania, 15680-150. Or in Canada and internationally to P.O. Box 456, Orangeville, Ontario, L9W5G2.
As we study through the Bible, being Space Friday it is, Ryan is here with Cosmic Mysteries. Ryan?
Well, with all the hype going on in astronomy these days about exoplanets and intelligent life and evolution, it can be easy to jump on that train and just accept these things as fact. But it's really important to look beyond the newspaper and magazine headlines and to find out what's actually going on. In this segment, we're going to do just that. We're looking beyond the claims, headlines, and biases and looking at the actual facts. Teams of astronomers all over the world are on an all-out search for life in the galaxy and beyond. A field of astronomy that is growing extremely rapidly is the search for exoplanets. These are planets that orbit around stars outside of our solar system. The biggest search right now is for planets with liquid water. Based on an evolutionary worldview, if liquid water could be found, then life could possibly evolve there. Have scientists found water anywhere in the universe? The answer is yes. NASA's Phoenix lander took a sample of Mars's soil and identified water. Another probe also identified specific minerals, which suggested there may have been water on Mars for a longer period of time. There's even evidence of a near-global Martian flood. Water vapor has even been found in plumes coming from Saturn's moon, Enceladus, and carbonates and clays which only ever form in liquid water have been found in the comet called Tempel 1. But is the fact that we find water molecules in space really that surprising? Not really. After all, hydrogen is the most common element in the universe, and oxygen is the third most abundant. In space, we mostly find water in ice form. However, it does seem plausible that there is liquid water elsewhere in the universe. But water by itself does not equal life. Some scientists became excited because the plumes containing water vapor on Saturn's moon, Enceladus, contained organic molecules such as ethanol, methane, formaldehyde, and some other hydrocarbons. It is also believed that some of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, such as Europa, Titan, and Enceladus, have underground oceans that could harbor bacteria, which are known as the simplest life forms. The underground oceans of Europa are predicted to be violent, and therefore it has been suggested that these waves could be used as an energy source necessary for life. But still, water plus bacterium plus energy does not equal life. Scientists again made a far reach in saying that life in the universe may be common rather than rare, when NASA collected dust samples from the comet Wild 2 and found the simplest of all amino acids called glycine. However, it is important to remember that there are 20 different amino acids required for life. Sugars, fats, and DNA have not been found. Even despite these findings, no life has ever been found in space. It would be extremely unlikely to find life in outer space since it has extremely hostile conditions, even to the most rugged of life forms. Even if these elements were all transported to the Earth with water and energy added to them, life would not spontaneously arise. No one has ever seen life spontaneously arise from matter. Life requires information, or DNA, and if science has made one thing clear, it's that information cannot arise from disorder or chance. Dr. Werner Gett, a world leader in information science, says this: "There is no known natural law through which matter can give rise to information. Neither is any physical process or material phenomenon known that can do this. It always takes a greater source of information to produce information, and ultimately information is the result of intelligence." To sum it all up, life can only come from other life, and life requires information, or DNA, and information requires an intelligent source. DNA cannot produce new genetic information, it can only reproduce it. Looking at the actual facts can really shed light on misleading headlines. The fact is, with all our modern technology, no life has ever been found in space, and no sign of evolution has ever been found either, nor will it be. No one has ever seen anything spontaneously arise, even on the Earth, so how could we expect to find evolution happening on another planet? To a Bible believer, finding water in space is no surprise. In fact, the Bible tells us in verses like 1 Peter 3:5 that God actually formed the Earth out of water. Could it be that God created the other planets and moons out of water too? Something to think about.
You know, that's very interesting, Ryan, because we are the same in nature. We have a short attention span, so what we want to do is we want to just read the headlines or hype up the headlines, but there's so much more. The truth cannot be confined to a headline. That's very, very important. And of course, to see evidence for evolution, according to their time scale, the evolutionary time scale, you need about 1 million years. Well, who's going to be around for 1 million years? I don't think we'll be here. Very, very interesting. All right. We also have the Bible challenge today.
Yes,
for
we
Corey.
do.
Go for it.
Yes, we do. And all of the viewers, of course. How many daughters did the priest of Midian have? Did he have 3? Did he have 7? Or did he have 9?
You know what? Honestly, I'm having trouble remembering, but I think it was more than 3, and I think it was less than 9, so I'm going to go with 7.
Good deductive reasoning. Exodus chapter 2, verse 16 says indeed that he had 7 daughters.
Okay.
One of which Moses married.
Yeah, and
Zipporah.
that's a fascinating culture, the Midianites, and I know you've done a lot of studies on it, and it really is. There's a lot of interesting things coming up that you're working on for February, Corey, I know, because you've been working on it and bouncing some stuff off us related to these ancient cultures and how the Bible lines up with it. Very interesting. Just a brief note today, on our 8-minute Internet Bible study on Just Thinking, we're going to be focusing on Matthew chapter 17, which is a parallel to this teaching today. Jesus Christ only is the living Word. Moses and the prophets and the elders are simply servants of the loving, living Word. Very, very interesting. And as we talk about that, it will relate to how we live our lives. As well, I encourage you to get a copy of the Pocket Guide. You can do so online at BibleDiscoveryTV.com. And you can download it for your Kindle or for your Nook or for your computer or for your mobile device. Or you can also write to us. Remember, we are supported by viewers just like you. When you write to us, remember to bring us your prayer request. Here's Watch and Pray. It took extreme faith for the mother of Moses to release her child that she had invested all of her hopes and her dreams in. But in the end, it came back and her child became the deliverer of Israel. I want you to think about that, because in order for us to truly understand who God is and to trust Him, we need to release our preconceived ideas. You see, God is not religion. God is not going here or going there, going to this service or that. So God is real. Jesus is real. And He's here today, and He says, "Behold, I stand at the door of your heart and knock. And if you let me in, I will come in and have fellowship with you." It may be that you are watching this program today and you simply just need to give up your ideas of what you think church and religion is and come to Jesus and let Him show you who He is. Romans 10:8 says, if you pray and say, "Lord, I believe you died on the cross and rose again. I make you Lord of my life today," He will do so.